Hi everybody, Marianne here. Hope you're well. In this video I'm going to show you how I make the clear dividers that I have in my A5 planner, and I'll show you a different version that's also in my pocket planner. So here we go. Alright, so if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen this planner that housed my leverage planner as well as my budget by paycheck worksheets. I printed it on A4 paper, 2 pages per sheet, which means it'll print 2 A5 sheets side by side, and I just cut down the middle. I have for my top dividers, let's see if we can see that. Oops, actually, sorry. I'm gonna put the light on, but it will glare on the plastic, and so hopefully it's not too bad. So I have monthly, paycheck bill tracker, cash, debit, cash expense, debit expense, and this week. So I use these dashboard dividers as my bookmark. So if I need to refer to a page, instead of flicking through the page, finding the spot that I need, I know now that the first one is my this week of my leverage planner weekly spread. The one that's next to it is my debit expense tracker, and then the third one will be my cash expense tracker, my paycheck bill trackers, and then the monthly is the budget by paycheck calendar. The one on the side tabs, I have last month, so that houses my leverage planner and budget by paycheck worksheets from the previous month. Then there's this month, so this month has this month's calendar. I also have homeschool, so let's just show you that. So the homeschool is, I just printed out the leverage planner's weekly spread on its own. We are homeschool term 3. This is first day. I haven't really done my planner setup for this week because we're just playing it by ear for the moment, because it's first week, we're easing into it. So there's my homeschool planner. The next divider that I have is my monthly running total. I do have a video on how I use this worksheet that I created to help me close out the budget throughout the month rather than leaving all my calculations at the end of the month. Go and see the video on how to use this. I have savings trackers, so that has my little sinking funds trackers, my home deposit trackers, and some spare one. And then I also have my cash envelopes. So those are the side ones, and at the bottom I also have my little different trackers for cash, my debit accounts, my sinking funds, my savings, and how much total funds we have in our debit and cash. So then if I need to update, let's say I do my cash envelope stuffing and I want to update my cash trackers, I have them right here. These are actually free from the Budget Mums free resource library, but what I did is I screenshot the PDF, so it's an image, and then I put 3 of them side by side via PowerPoint. So a lot of editing here and there. So then I have 3 of them side by side, so saves on paper, and I have 6 on an open spread. So those are my clear dividers. And so I'm going to show you how I make them. I also made similar ones for my pocket, but the difference is, so these are actually just made of laminating pouches. That's all it is. So nothing inside it. You just run it through the laminator machine and then cut to size. And these ones here though, make sure I don't show my card. These ones here, I use vellum paper. So I put vellum paper in between the laminating pouches and then I cut to size. So the vellum paper I cut to size first because what happens is if you have something sandwiched in between the laminating pouches, and if you don't leave a little space, I don't know if you can see that, space on the outer edge, the laminating pouch will separate, because then there's nothing that's keeping it together. So it's important that you do leave a little bit of a margin or an edge to it, because this is what will happen with time and wear, you know, flipping through it, it'll start separating and you'll get that. You can run it through again through the laminator, but because I have made labels for these, if I run it through, then the label might melt, or I think what happens is this becomes black because it's heat printing and not ink printed. So that's, and I also use them as little task card holders, dashboard. But yeah, so again, I have top tabs, side tabs, as well as bottom tabs, and the only difference, these ones, there's vellum paper in between them. So what I'm going to do for the purpose of this video is, because I do have overhead lights above, is I'm going to show you the demonstration using colored paper. But what happens is you get laminating pouches. These are the ones that I get from our local Kmart. Also, you need a laminating machine, and you also need, it's handy but not necessary, a paper trimmer, because then it'll just square your pieces of plastics a lot better than you know, if you had to, if you're like me and cutting, it's not as straight. But you don't need a paper trimmer to cut your pieces. So let's get going. First, turn on your laminating machine. You need to wait until the red light comes on. That indicates it's ready to laminate. Grab yourself a sheet of laminating pouch or laminating sheet. On the short side, you have one of it that is sealed. That is the end that you're going to feed into your laminating machine. Once your laminating machine is ready, it's time to insert the laminating pouch. It's important that you do feed it into the machine nice and straight so it doesn't get caught inside. This is what I mean. Once it's ready, let's take it to the table. And this is the result. So a laminating pouch is just a little bit bigger than an A4 size sheet of paper, because it needs those extra edges to seal the paper inside. There you are. So for the purpose of this video moving forward, I'm going to replace the laminating sheet with paper so you can see it much better on the camera. So I'm just going to use different colored paper so then you can clearly see how I make it using the laminated sheet. Okay, so let's first get some dimensions sorted. So for an A5 sheet of paper, it's technically half of an A4. So if you're making it for a pocket size or a personal size or any other size of insert or dashboard or divider that you want, I would just first get a template of that insert. So then it's a lot easier, because it does get confusing and I don't want you wasting too many laminated sheets when making your dividers. So the size of my dividers without tabs would be an A5. So let me just grab one of my planners. So regardless of whether you're going to have a top tab, a side tab, or a bottom tab, they all first start out with the dimension of the insert you want. So this is my insert size. It's exactly the same if you were going to make a divider for your pocket. So your starting point will be the size of your insert, and the same thing if you are going to make one for your personal, the starting off point is the size of your insert. So measure that. My measurements are for Filofax planner insert size. Now, depending on if you want to add a top tab, a side tab, or a bottom tab, you're going to add the extra length or the extra width. Now for me, I add 1/4 of an inch extra for my little tabs. I have tried 3/8 of an inch, but then it became too wide, and I like using the tiny little labels from my label maker, and so it just looked too far out once it's all laying flat. So it's all going to depend on how you want your dividers to look. If you want to have bigger labels, if you want to use a nice hand lettering label and it's a little bit bigger, you might want to make your tabs a little bit wider. But for me, I like to add 1/4 of an inch to the edges for my tabs. I'm just going to grab my ruler to see how wide my dimensions are. So for an A5, the width is 5/7/8. I'm going by fractions only because on my quilting ruler, the markings are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one measured at 5 7/8 in width, and of course in length it is 8.25. So I highly 2.5, which is 2/8. I highly recommend just grabbing a scrap piece of paper and having these dimensions, so then when you are cutting your dividers, you can easily know how much to add extra to create your tabs. Let's say this is a laminated sheet. Okay, so for the purpose of this video, this yellow piece of paper is a laminated sheet. So that's that. You can also create your dividers using cardstock, printed paper, or any other material. But the reason why I use a clear laminated sheet is so when I do have my planner spread open, I can still clearly see the other side without the divider or dashboard obstructing my view from the other page that I'm not seeing. So that's why I thought the clear dividers worked out really well. It helps me go to my page that I need very quickly using the tab as bookmarks, and also dividing up the pages. So let's pretend this yellow sheet is a laminated sheet. So we're going to make some, let's start off with the most common, which is a side tab. So this is a side tab. We're going to add an extra 1/4 of an inch to our laminated sheet so we can make the little tabs. So essentially what you're going to have, let's just do a rough one here, is an extra 1/4 of an inch that we cut here, and that is how we're going to make our little tabs. So that's just rough. So what we need to do with the laminated sheet is we first need to measure out 5 7/8 plus 2/8 is 6 1/8. Yes, 6 1/8. Grab your paper trimmer and first of all measure out, so I know that there's 5 7/8 is that one there. I'm going to add an extra 1/4 of an inch or 2/8, so 1, 2, and I'm going to trim my laminator sheet. And now I'm ready to use or to cut up my side tabs. Okay, so depending on how many side tabs you want, that's how many sheets you're going to cut up. So for my side tab, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let me just grab, so I grab or I make more clear laminated sheets for however many side tabs I want to use, and then cut up 6 pieces, or if you just want 3 tabs, cut up 3 laminated sheets in the size that you want. So hopefully I'm making sense here. So really, depending on how many tabs you want, create those many laminated sheets. Now, for an A5, you will be wasting a little bit of the laminated sheet, but I save that because later down the track I'm going to show you how I use those scrap piece of laminated sheets for task cards and anything else, or if you want to make some small pocket size dividers. So don't waste them, keep them handy, put them in a Ziploc bag for later use. Alright, so for the purpose of this video, how many did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to make 6 dividers for the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And remember, these are laminated sheets or whatever material you want to make. So I'm going to, so I know already that this length here is 1/8 2/4, but if you're using the laminated sheet, you might need to trim it that little bit, because remember, it's a little bit wider. So make sure you trim it to size. So we said to add that extra tab, we're going to add an extra 1/4 to the width so we can create our tabs. So here we go. There's your insert size. I've added an extra 1/4 of an inch to the edge to make my tabs. Now here's the bit where we create the tabs. Measure out the length of your sheet, and you need to divide it by however many tabs you want to make. So where is my calculator? Here. Okay, so we know 8.25 is the width or the length of this piece of paper, laminated sheet, cardstock, printed paper, and we're going to divide it by, in my case, 6, because I'm going to make 6 dividers. So we need 1.375. So 0.375 of 8 is, so 1 3/8. So 6 times 1 3/8. Again, I'm using fractions only because I have the quilting ruler and it's a little easier than decimals. All right, so you can get a ruler, you can get a tape measure, you can get whatever you like. So first, quite hard to see. Okay, that's better. Actually, I'm going to use a different colored paper so we can see clearly. I'm just using this as a background so you can clearly see. All right, so I need 1 3/8, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I was doing 1 1/8, sorry. See, this is why it's good to make your markings before you cut. So what do they say? Measure twice, cut once. So 1, 2, 3/8. Just making this a little bit longer, but on yours you may not want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. So now you have 6 dividers ready to trim. I just grab little bulldog clips to keep the sheets together. Now what you're going to do with these markings is just to make a little snippet, the tiniest of little snippet. Now if you do cut your laminated sheet, they do slide, so just maybe you want to add, or might want to add 2 more bulldog clips there, or just keep it really tight. So all you want to do is make a tiny little slit on the edge of your laminating sheets. The reason why you cut all of these together is so then when you make the little divided tabs, they are perfectly aligned with each other. So now we can see first page has little markings, second page there. Okay, and just so then I don't confuse myself, I'm gonna cut these off. I'm gonna cut that off and then mark that as a tab. So if you're using plastic, I just use a little marker that won't smudge. Not that one, not that one. So the third one we're gonna keep, not that one, not that one, not that one. Fourth. We're gonna keep that one. And we're going to keep that one. All right, so now we have our divided tabs ready to be trimmed. So this is when your paper trimmer comes in really handy. So remember, we know that the insert that I'm creating this for, the width of it is 5 7/8. So I'm going to cut the pieces that I don't want off and then just trim it. So let me demonstrate. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer, align the edge of this to 5 7/8. I'm not going to cut this bit here, so I'm going to run the blade of the trimmer close to the edge there and then just manually cut it. So here we go. Whoop, where is it? It's there, keep your finger. And then I don't want to cut it too far beyond that marking. So I'm just going to take it off the trimmer and then as straight as you can, just cut that to there where they will meet. Okay, now you can keep it at that, or you can manually round your corners so it's all pretty and it's not going to stab you. And you can do the same with the other edges. Okay, so if this is your laminated sheet, this is what it's going to look like. So there is your first tab. There we go. There's your first tab there, and then we're ready to hole punch it and label it a little bit later. So that is your first tab, and it looks like my blade is not sharp. I'm just gonna switch that. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Because you made your markings and labeled them, you know not to cut this bit. So you're only going to trim up to the little markings you have there, and on the other side only to the little marking you have there. So once again, we know the width of our insert is 5 7/8, and we're going to place our divider up to that point. So the little trimmer here has a little ruler on the side there, so I'm going to just put it, see if I can do this up here, up to 5 7/8. So when I talk about 7/8, see how there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'll just place it on the 7/8 portion. 5 7/8. Again, there's a little marking there, so if it's on your clear laminated sheet, you would have made a little marking that you can remove later. So I'm just going to cut up to that bit there, and then flip it and up to that bit only. So just be really careful, take your time, because you don't want to cut the tab that you want. So again, I'm just going to manually trim this, so up to the 1/4 inch point, and then continue the line there, and again so there's your second tab. And if you want to round it out, just use your scissors. Now if you were going to use printed paper and then laminate it, I highly suggest to make the size 1/8 of an inch smaller than you would normally, because remember, you need the margin or an edge to have a sealed margin all around, so it doesn't come apart. So here we are. There's the second tab, and then because you mark them all together, it lines up beautifully rather than having a little gap. I mean, if you want a gap between your dividers, that's fine too, but this is how I do it. So there's the second one. I'm just going to fast track through the rest of these, so then because it's going to look like my timer will be cut off. So I'll see you on the other side of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim tab 3, tab 4, and tab 5 and tab 6, and I'll see you once I've completed that. Okay, I'm back. I've cleaned up a bit. So this is the product of the cutting of the tabs. So we have tab 1, tab 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so if you were using it with clear laminated sheets, this is what it would look like. Bar the labels, of course, because I'll show you how to do that later. So what we need to do is to make the hole punch. Now I don't have a 6 hole puncher, so I just manually hole punch it by using a template. So this is the plastic sheet that came along with the Filofax. If you have another insert or another dashboard that you can use as a template, do that. So I'm just going to move this so the glare is not on the screen. So keep it all together. Get yourself a pencil or a pen and make your markings on your divider tabs. So again, because it's plastic, you want to use a little marker that won't smudge, or make your markings and let it dry so it doesn't smudge off. I just use a single hole punch. I bought this one from Officeworks and I think it's less than $2. It would normally have a plastic covering here to catch all the pieces of paper you hole punch out, but I take that off because I use the little hole as a guide to hole punch the things I want to hole punch. So let's see, hopefully you can see that. So there's the first marking, and there we go. So let's just clear the rubbish. All right, so we've got our hole punch. Now for some of these, not all of them, but for most things that I have to move around, so instead of opening the rings of my planner, which can sometimes, cause wear and tear or leave you a little gap. So instead of opening that all the time, what I do is I cut a little slit on the through the hole punched, and then I can easily just slide it back in or slide it off. Okay, so you might want to do that with all yours. So I just do that. Cut little slits. All right, there you go. Okay, now to make the labels, I'm just gonna pop them on there. I have a Dymo letter tag label maker, and this is the desktop version, but you can buy whatever label maker you want, P-Touch, or whatever is to your fancy. So this is the one I have. It has different size fonts. You can get tape that's white and prints black, or the one I'm using is clear with black print. That little hole there shows you how much tape you have left. So this label maker creates extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. The different sizes that'll print, and it also prints, I think that's the italic one. So you can have normal, italic, bold, underlined, and then you can insert numbers, and you can also insert symbols. Let me show you how I use the symbol one. So see how they've got little hearts? So yeah, it has many different symbols on there. Now I won't go through how I use the label maker, because this video will just end up really too long. So this one is the small size font, normal, and I use all capital letters, and then I just trim around the edge of the word, so then there's not a lot of the plastic or the clear label, and it doesn't stand out too much. So that's my do-it-yourself clear divided tabs using a Dymo letter tag label maker. I use the small font and clear transparent tape. Okay, quickly I'm going to show you how I make the top tabs. Okay, so very quickly, so let's have a look. For this demonstration I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top tabs. So I'm going to make yourself laminated sheets, put it through the laminating machine. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grab your little template. So this is your insert size. Oh, there we go, for the A5, or if you've already made one for personal, pocket, or whatever size your planner is. So remember, we're going to add 1/4 of an inch at the top to create the divider tab. So of course on your laminated sheet, that way won't fit, so you will have to make it this way. So you need to measure out 5 7/8 in width, and then I will need a calculator because my brain isn't working. 8.25, oh duh, 8.5. Okay, and then of course it'll be 8.5 that way. Okay, so for you to be able to create top tabs. Now if you're using clear sheet, top tab is this the same way you will make bottom tabs. it'll just depend on where you position your template or your hole punch. Where'd my template go? So if you position your template, the top, then that'll be a bottom. There will be bottom tabs, or if it's the other way around, remember, because it's clear, that'll be bottom tabs. I'll show you a quick exam demonstration for the bottom tabs as well. All right, so we know, okay, so we know we need to measure out 8.5 inch. So use your paper trimmer, go for 8.5 inch, which is there. Trim your width, you're not adding on any extra, so it is, see, that's why a template is handy, 5 7/8. Trim. Remember, if these are laminated sheets, keep them handy in a Ziploc bag. You can recycle or repurpose for task cards or bookmarks, so don't waste your materials. All right, so now we said I want to make 5 divided tabs for the top. So we know it's, the width is 5 7/8. 5.875 divided by 5 is 1.175. So let's find out what 0.175 of 8 is. So about 1 1/8. So you might have to play around with this because it's not an exact. So 1 1 1 1/8, 1 1/8, 1 1/8, and maybe let's just see. Yeah, so then if the last tab you have extra, just play around with your, with your measurement until you're happy with it. So again, cut little tiny slits. All right, label so you're not cutting the wrong ones. So one, gonna cut those off. Cut that, keep that. That's better. Cut, keep the third. Cut, keep the fourth. Cut, keep the fifth. All right, there we are. So I'll fast track through this bit as well. So for a top tab or a bottom tab, we are going to trim the excess, and we know the length that we want to keep it at is 8 1/4. So 8 1/4, am I on screen? 8 1/4, so 8 1/4, keep it there. We're going to cut up to that point. Right, there is my marking. Just cut, and again, round the edges. Here we are. 1 tab, 2 tab, 3 tab, 4 tab, 5 tab. Okay, so if I wanted to make bottom tabs, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. I'll do exactly the same thing. I will divide the width of my insert, or my in my case 5 and 7/8, by the number of tabs I want to create. So if you just want to create 2, just divide it by 2. If you want to create 3, divide it by 3. And if you want to have a lot of different things, and divide it by however many tabs you want. Really, it's up to you how many. All right, so let's just say for the purpose of this video, these 3 are my top tabs. So I'm going to get my template to make my hole punch, line up the bottom so then the tab sticks at the top. So those are my top tabs. So since we make the bottom tab exactly the same way we do a top tab, and it's just the positioning of the hole punch, so we grab your template and align it so then the tabs stick out at the bottom. So if we line all of these up, okay. Now my tabs, they're not all, the side tabs aren't all one after the other. You can mix them around. So normally the tabs or the pages that I will use most, I will have the tab at the front of the planner, and the ones that I don't use as often will be towards the back of the planner. So if these were clear tabs and you have a 2-page spread, you'll still be able to see the other side. So especially say for this one, which is my homeschool weekly spread, I can see my whole week if you're using the clear laminated sheet. All right, I think that's it. Let's have a look. So if these are all labeled, you can easily go, all right, well, I need to do my update my cash expense tracker. You'll go to the tab that you've labeled as cash expense. You can quickly flip to it. Oh, I need to go look at my paycheck bill tracker. Go to the tab that you've labeled. You can quickly flip through it. I need to look at my workout tracker. Go to that tab and you can quickly flip through it. That is how I make my clear divided tabs using laminated sheet, a laminating machine, and a label maker. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, I would really appreciate it if you hit like button. Also subscribe, because I am hoping to make more videos in the future, and don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications of when I upload new videos. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.